Cherished by both the media and the financial and political establishment, Elon Musk has in practice been a main profile for clearing the path and making way for a global transhumanist development, perhaps even a technocratic one, where man and machine integrate and become one in a digital cloud, something Musk himself explained with a personal concern, meaning that AI will outcompete humanity in the long run if we do not find a solution from the beginning. In parallel, Elon Musk has also surprised many with outspoken outbursts, most recently by sharing memes that push the politically correct woke culture, and by refusing to block RT and Sputnik from his Starlink project, citing his belief in free speech. Some have also humorously accused Musk of being a robot himself, pointing to his somewhat odd personality, which Musk with the same sense of humor has responded to, for example on Saturday Night Live in May 2021, when he went public with the fact that he is diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which expresses itself in difficulties with interpreting social situations. It is clear to say that Musk is a difficult profile to interpret even for those around him, and the transhumanist entrepreneur continues to elude many analysts across the world. It is equally clear that he is still a highly relevant global player, both technologically, culturally, and ultimately, also politically. Born June 28, 1971 in South Africa, Musk early paved the way for electronic payment solutions in the late 1990s, by being part of the startup of PayPal. Today, Musk is better known for his participation in the space company, SpaceX, and as CEO of the electric car manufacturer, Tesla. Musk is also active with his projects Neuralink and Starlink, with the goal of integrating humans with digital technology, and providing the entire world with satellite-based internet. Already at an early age, Musk showed a talent for both computers and entrepreneurship, and by the age of 12 he created a computer game that he sold to a computer magazine. Musk's father is from South Africa, while his mother has roots in Canada, which enabled Musk to apply for a Canadian passport. The passport was granted in 1988, and Musk then left South Africa, partly to escape the mandatory military service and partly to seek better economic opportunities in Canada's neighboring country, the United States. At 19, Musk was accepted to Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, where he spent 2 years before moving on to Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania in 1992. In 1997, Musk earned a bachelor's degree in physics and economics, with the intention of continuing his studies at the Graduate School of Physics, at Stanford University in California. However, Musk dropped out of the training after only 2 days, saying that he saw a much greater potential in changing the world with the help of the internet. Musk had already founded the company Zip2 together with his brother, Kimball Musk, in 1995. The business idea was to provide maps and business directories to online newspapers. Computer maker Compaq bought the company in 1999 for $307 million. Musk then owned 7% of the company, and with the help of this money, he laid the foundation for his next digital company, X.com. X.com was initially focused on financial services, and later specialized in transferring money in the digital market, under the name PayPal. The company was sold in 2002 to eBay, for $1.5 billion. Elon Musk claims to have thought a lot about human survival for a long time, and has expressed that he is convinced that humanity's existence can only continue if we develop into a so-called multiplanetary species, that is, establish ourselves on planets other than Earth. Musk's personal interest in the subject led him to investigate NASA's spending on rocket manufacturing and the work involved in their launches, something Musk was very unimpressed with. These two driving forces laid the foundation for Space Exploration Technologies Corp., better known as SpaceX, with the stated goal of enabling affordable rockets and space travel. SpaceX's first rocket, Falcon 1, was launched in 2006 and the next rocket, Falcon 9, in 2010. These two rockets reportedly cost only a tenth of what competitor NASA spent on equivalent rockets. SpaceX's third rocket, the Falcon Heavy, was launched in 2018, and was designed to carry 53 tons into Earth orbit. That is almost twice as much as the company's biggest competitor, the Boeing company's Delta IV Heavy rocket, can carry, and currently at a third of the manufacturing cost. Today, SpaceX is working on a successor called the Super Heavy Starship system. The Super Heavy will be able to lift 100 tons into Earth orbit, and will also be able to carry a Starship, a spacecraft designed to provide rapid transport between cities on Earth, and build bases on both the Moon and Mars. SpaceX has also developed a spacecraft called Dragon, which among other things, transported supplies to the International Space Station, ISS. On December 22, 2015, SpaceX made history by successfully making the first vertical rocket landing. The rocket had been sent out to deliver material to a space station, and then flew back and landed on Earth, an advanced maneuver that had significant implications for the economic aspects of rocket manufacturing, as previously all rockets had to be discarded after use. This technology, called Grasshopper, is what Musk believes could enable the colonization of the planet Mars. In 2017, SpaceX used parts of an already used rocket for the first time. And once more, they managed to return from space and land the rocket on Earth, without having to discard it. At the moment, SpaceX is mainly noticed for the Starlink project, with the goal of providing the whole Earth with access to wireless internet, through a network of satellites. The main criticism of the project is directed at the cooperation with the US military, and a concern that the technology could be used for techno-totalitarian purposes. In 2004, Musk invested in entrepreneurs Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning's company, Tesla Motors, which was later renamed Tesla. Tesla's first car, the Roadster, was introduced in 2006 and had a maximum range of 394 kilometers per charge. The Roadster accelerated from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds, which at the time was unusually fast for an electric vehicle. Tesla's IPO in 2010 brought the company $226 million in revenue, and 2 years later, the Model S car was introduced, which was praised by car critics for its design and performance. The accolades were repeated in 2015 when Tesla introduced its luxury SUV Model X. In August 2018, Musk made a series of posts on Twitter that he intended to buy Tesla back into private ownership, with the justification that the launch of Tesla on the stock exchange was only to secure the company's financing. The following month, Musk was sued by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, for securities fraud, which deemed Musk's Twitter posts to be false and misleading. Tesla's board quickly rejected the SEC's claims, and Musk reportedly threatened to resign from his post. The news sent Tesla stock plummeting, and Musk subsequently stepped down as chairman, but continued as the company's chief executive. In 2016, Musk co-founded the company Neuralink, with Max Hodak, Ben Rappaport, Dogjan Seo, Pale Merola, Philip Saves, Tim Gardner, Tim Hansen, and Vanessa Talusa, all experts in neuroscience, biochemistry, and high-tech engineering. Neuralink was presented in April 2017, as a company whose primary purpose was to manufacture products that could treat brain diseases, but with a more overarching goal of integrating humans with new technology. Musk says he got the idea for Neuralink from the science fiction series The Culture, by Ian M. Banks. Musk is said to want to achieve symbiosis between humans and artificial intelligence, and believes that if AI develops unmonitored, without human intervention, it will eventually take over and become a threat to humanity. Musk says he wants to prevent this, somewhat paradoxically, by connecting humans to AI with the help of a microchip that is operated into the brain. The microchip must also be able to upload and resume your last saved state. In this way, Neuralink believes that via the chip's data, both brain damage and back damage can be cured. In April 2021, Neuralink released a video showing a monkey playing the video game Pong, using a Neuralink implant. Although the technology in question has been around since 2002, this was recognized as a technological advance with the wireless implant and a high number of implanted electrodes. Neuralink has had many internal conflicts, and co-founder and chairman Max Hodak announced in May 2021 that he will no longer be working at the company. As of January 2022, only 2 of the 8 original co-founders remain with Neuralink. In 2013, a high-speed rail system was planned in California, with an estimated cost of $68 billion. When Musk found out about this, he immediately became critical of the high cost. He approached the promoters with another proposal, the hyperloop, a tube with a capsule containing seats for 28 passengers, that would cover the distance between Los Angeles and San Francisco, a distance of 560 kilometers, in 35 minutes. Musk said that this project would only cost $6 billion to build, and that the system would be able to transport all 6 million people who annually travel that route. However, Musk pointed out that he himself would not have the opportunity to work on the project but would be happy to participate in the process. Hyperloop has not yet been launched, however, the project transported its first human traveler in November 2020, and according to Hyperloop's website, the first version of the system will be operational by 2026. On February 24, 1955, co-founder and CEO of Apple, Pixar's chairman, and majority owner and later member of the Walt Disney Company, Steve Jobs, was born. Jobs was a major pioneer of the personal computer revolution in the 1970s and 1980s, along with his early business partner and co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco, to a Syrian father and a German-American mother. Shortly after his birth, Jobs was adopted, an event Jobs has built many of his motivational speeches from, to inspire others that anything is possible, regardless of your background. At the age of 19, Jobs traveled to India to make an interpersonal journey and to seek enlightenment by, among other things, studying Zen Buddhism and its scriptures and traditions. 2 years after the trip to India, which brought loads of experience and a yearning for something more, something great, Jobs founded Apple, together with his friend and colleague, and the success took off. They saw commercial solutions to bring the computer into the average household and first began to develop what was named Apple Lisa, after Jobs' firstborn daughter, which was a real failure. On the other hand, the failure led them to finally release Macintosh in 1984, and it was then the real breakthrough skyrocketed to the products from Apple we have in our hands today. In 1985, after a long power struggle with the company's board and then CEO John Sculley, Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple. He took some of his closest employees with him and founded the company Next, where they specialized in computers for higher education and business markets. Jobs also stepped in and helped develop the visual effects industry, funding a department that worked with George Lucas. This project was named Pixar, and was the first company to produce 3D computer animation, which was showed off in 1995 in the movie, Toy Story. Follow the channel for more interesting videos and feel free to comment your thoughts on Steve Jobs in the comment section below. Let's continue hearing about his work and the meeting that came to change the world forever. So, after Steve Jobs left Apple, the company was struggling to survive, and in 1997, Jobs returned to save the company from bankruptcy, after being personally contacted by the board which initially had kicked him out of the company. They realized that to even have a chance of surviving, they needed Jobs and his genius back in the company. Jobs began working closely with the English designer Jonathan Paul Ive, better known as Johnny Ive, and together they began developing a product line that would turn more towards cultural works. They started marketing this line with the Think Different advertising campaign, which eventually led to the iMac, iPod, iTunes, iPad, iTunes, and iPhone. In 2001, the original Mac OS system was replaced with the brand new Mac OS X, which was based on Next's Next Step platform. When Steve Jobs was younger, he said that he first saw himself as a so-called humanist, but started feeling a bit torn about it since he knew he was also a person devoted to anything that had to do with technology. But then one day he read something that one of the people he looked up to had said, Edwin Land of Polariad. Land once said, that the people who stand in the intersection in between humanities and science, will change the world for the better, and at this moment Jobs decided that it was exactly where he was supposed to be. Quote, "Industry is the best at the intersection of science and art." Edwin Land. In his childhood, Steve Jobs' parents adopted his sister Patricia in 1995, and 2 years later moved to the Monte Loma neighborhood of Mountain View, California. Here in the new house, Paul Jobs built a workbench for Steve in the garage, where he could experiment with building mechanical things. This laid the foundation for Steve getting his first summer job as a teenager for a certain Bill Hewlett, who later became famous for the Hewlett-Packard, better known as HP, the multinational information technology company. Thanks to the family moving to Mountain View, California, Steve Jobs went to Homestead High School, which had strong ties to Silicon Valley. It was also here that Jobs met Steve Wozniak, who later became Apple's first employee. In the 1970s, Jobs began to take an interest in culture and immersed himself in everything from Shakespeare and Plato, while his interest in music also grew and became an important part of life. However, it was electronics and literature that won most of Jobs' heart and time, and later in life he would state that the only way to stay up to date is to read as much as you can. However, Jobs was kind of an outsider in school, since he was smart enough to hang out with the nerds but too cool for them, and cool enough for the hippies who liked him, but they weren't smart enough for him, which ended up with Jobs having to learn how to do things mostly by himself, choosing only a handful of people who he surrounded himself with. In 1972, Jobs began to experiment with the psychedelic acid, LSD, which is said to have given him some of the most amazing experiences he had had in his life up to that point, and it is also said that it was during one of these experiences that Jobs came up with the ideas of how humans could be able to integrate with technology in a never-before-seen kind of way. At the end of 1972, Jobs also began studying at Reed College in Portland, but dropped out after the first semester. He believed that it was unnecessary to spend expensive money on an education that would be pointless anyway. Jobs made it through everyday life by sleeping on the floor on a mattress in the homes of various friends, and also took a short course on calligraphy. In a speech later in life, Jobs said that it was thanks to that calligraphy course that we today have various different fonts and text styles, first introduced on the Mac computers, since Jobs believed in personalizing the computer experience. In 1974, Jobs returned to his parents' home and began working at Atari as a technician, where he was branded a difficult but valuable asset by Atari co-founder, Nolan Bushnell. After a few months, it was then that Jobs decided to go to India and explore the culture of Buddhism and meditation, but cut the trip short and after 7 months returned to work at Atari. In 1975, Jobs and Steve Wozniak joined the Homebrew Computer Club, which proved to be a springboard for the development of the first Apple computer. Wozniak completed the basic design of the Apple I computer in 1997, and showed it to Jobs, who saw the potential in selling it. Wozniak was skeptical at first but gave in to hard work, and in April that same year, the Apple Computer Company was founded. A year later, in April 1977, Jobs and Wozniak introduced the Apple II at the West Coast Computer Fair, and that model became the first consumer product sold by Apple, and also one of the first successful mass-produced microcomputer products in the world. This paved the way. Steve Jobs, already at the age of 23, was worth over $1 million, corresponding to approximately $4.2 million in today's terms. Jobs also became one of the youngest people to ever make Forbes' list of the nation's richest people, without having inherited any of his money. Jobs' first big mistake came in 1983, when he brought in Pepsi-Cola marketing expert, John Sculley, to Apple. Their visions for the company, which at first had seen as a good match, slowly but surely began to differ. In 1985, Steve Wozniak had had enough and left the company, as he felt Apple had lost its core. Although Wozniak and Jobs did not always agree on things, their friendship was a lifelong one. After some bad-made decisions by Jobs together with poor sales figures, resulting in John Sculley strengthening his position in the company, he started working on a strategy that eventually would remove Jobs from Apple. It ended with Jobs handing in his resignation on September 17, 1985, but bringing 5 Apple employees with him, which was the start of Jobs' new venture, Next. Next Incorporated was founded with Jobs investing $7 million in the company, which was completely gone after the first year. Even though the company had no product in the pipeline, Jobs still managed to convince venture capitalist Ross Perot to invest. Next was what made Steve Jobs once again accepted as a genius in the tech industry, and it was with the help of a Next computer that the English computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web in 1990, at CERN in Switzerland. The second-generation Next Cube was released in 1990, and was the first to be able to share voice, images, graphics, and video, via email. Jobs then stated that this would be the thing that would change the world and revolutionize human communication. Next stopped focusing on hardware and instead began to work entirely on software, and in 1997, Next was acquired by Apple Incorporated. The foundation for Apple Store and iTunes was actually born out of the Next web objects. In 1986, Steve Jobs funded the graphics group that George Lucas was involved in, and with that, Pixar was founded. The first movie produced was Toy Story, which is the world's first fully animated movie ever made, and for which Steve Jobs is credited as executive producer. Pixar began collaborating with Disney, but when the contract expired in 2003, Steve Jobs and Disney CEO Michael Eisner failed to come to an agreement, and in January 2004, Jobs agreed to never collaborate with Disney again. However, it did not last long, as Disney and Jobs landed a collaboration in January 2006, which also made Jobs the largest individual shareholder, with 7% of the company. After Steve Jobs' death, his shares were transferred to the Stephen P. Jobs Trust, headed by Loren Jobs. After all, Steve Jobs claimed that he had created what would change the world and how people communicate with each other. And oh, was he right. In 1996, Apple announced that they would buy Next, for $427 million. The deal was completed in February 1997 and Jobs was back at the company he once founded. Jobs then began to terminate everything that was not profitable, which led to many employees having to leave Apple. This was a necessity though, to save the company from going under. One of the most important meetings in world history is probably the encounter between Steve Jobs and Jonathan Paul Ivey, better known as Johnny Ive. The two met in an office at Apple for the first time in 1997, and it was here that Apple's profile with iMac, iPod, and later iPhone, took form. If it had not been for Jobs and Ive, you probably would not be holding an iPhone looking the way it does in your hand right now. It was Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive who came up with the elegant yet cool design we see on all Apple products today, starting off with the colorful iMac computers released in 1998, starting off with the Bondi Blue, named after Bondi Beach in Australia, a popular surfing spot. Why? Because you could surf the web on it. The colors that followed were blueberry, grape, tangerine, lime and strawberry, released in 1999, called Eye Candy. In October 2003, Steve Jobs was diagnosed with cancer, and told his employees in mid-2004. Jobs was not interested in the care recommended by the healthcare system, but instead followed the advice he received from alternative medicine. However, Jobs eventually agreed on getting surgery which was carried out at the end of 2004. Unluckily, the cancer returned in 2006. On August 28, however, a strange thing occurred, when Bloomberg published an obituary on Jobs, something that was quickly corrected. Bloomberg claimed that it always has obituaries ready for famous people, in order to be able to quickly publish if they would pass away. Steve Jobs responded in a public post, that the situation was not as serious as Bloomberg claims, but it caused many to speculate about both Steve Jobs' health and the circumstances surrounding it. In 2009, Jobs announced that he would take a 6-month leave of absence, and Tim Cook took over the CEO role for Apple. Tim Cook also gave a piece of his liver to Jobs, as both have an unusual blood type, and the operation for the liver transplant took place in April 2009. Jobs was then able to return to Apple and continued work as usual up until 2011, when Apple announced that Jobs had been granted a medical leave of absence. Tim Cook took over as CEO once again, and Jobs was only involved in the strategic decisions that were made. On August 24, 2011, Jobs voluntarily resigned from Apple as he no longer considered himself able to fulfill the demands and expectations he himself had put up for himself, and also how he expected his colleagues and employees wanting him to perform. Tim Cook was then appointed as Jobs' successor as CEO. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away, the genius who took the first step towards implementing humans with digital technology, making it an extension of the individual. Steve Jobs will always be one of few who have shaped our world to what it is today, and will for many years to come be an important figure with everything he managed to create during his years in Silicon Valley, despite the fact that he has never coded or built anything. Steve Jobs created everything from his inner visions and through hard work and determination, and got things done by thinking outside of the box.
Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
The German-American billionaire and entrepreneur, Peter Thiel, was born October 11, 1967, in Frankfurt, Germany. Peter Thiel is a venture capitalist and political activist. Thiel was the first outside investor in Facebook, and he co-founded Palantir Technologies, Founder Fund, and PayPal, and is also one of the members described as the so-called PayPal Mafia. Thiel believes that aging should be looked upon as a disease and is, along with Jeff Bezos, one of the biggest donators to research trying to crack the code of aging, and thus gain eternal life. In this video we will get to see how Peter Thiel became one of the most influential people in Silicon Valley, and what trilogy he's actually named many of his companies from. But before we continue, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. At the age of 6, Thiel began playing chess and at one point was one of the strongest junior players in the United States. However, he has not competed since 2003. Could it be because of his skills in chess, Peter Thiel has learned how to think strategically and make the right decisions to succeed in life? Let's have a look at Thiel's accomplishments. At the beginning of his career, Peter Thiel worked as a securities attorney at Sullivan & Cromwell, and also wrote speeches for former U.S. Secretary of Education, William Bennett. In 1996 he founded Thiel Capital Management, and 2 years later he put together PayPal, along with Max Levchin and Luke Nosek. Thiel served as CEO until 2002, when PayPal was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion. When PayPal was sold, Thiel first started a global hedge fund called Clarium Capital. Shortly thereafter, he developed Palantir Technologies, a large data analysis company, and also started Founders Fund, together with his old PayPal friends, Ken Howery and Luke Nozel. When Thiel invested $500,000 into Facebook, he became their first outside investor, getting a 10.2% stake. Thiel later sold the majority of his shares in August 2012, pocketing over $1 billion for it. Thiel puts large sums of money into nonprofit research working with artificial intelligence, life extension, and shipping. When Peter Thiel was young, he loved to play Dungeons and Dragons, and plowed through many books of science fiction. Isaac Asimov, Robert A. Heinlein, and J.R.R. Tolkien are some of his favorite past authors. 6 of Thiel's companies are actually named after various names appearing in The Lord of the Rings. After finishing school and working a few odd jobs, Thiel found interest in the development of the internet and personal computers, and soon understood that this was the start of something new and groundbreaking. He therefore raised a whole $1 million from friends and family to start Thiel Capital Management, and began his career as a venture capitalist. Early on, he invested $100,000 in his friend Luke Nosek's web-based calendar project. Unfortunately, It was a flop and all the money disappeared almost immediately. But pretty soon Thiel was introduced to a venture called Confinity, and it was thanks to this that the ideas regarding PayPal were born. So maybe the flop wasn't that unfortunate after all. When PayPal was launched at a press conference in 1999, the company received $3 million from Nokia and Deutsche Bank in transfers on the platform. PayPal continued to grow when it merged the company with Elon Musk's online financial services company X.com and Pixar, a company specializing in mobile commerce. On February 15, 2002, PayPal was sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, and Thiel, who then owned 3.7% of the company, received $55 million in the sale. Thiel has since then been called the Don of the PayPal Mafia. Palantir Technologies was born in May 2003, and is a big data analytics company. The company's identity was given by Thiel, based on insights he gained from PayPal to fight fraud, and when the 9/11 attack sparked a debate about how security could be increased, Peter Thiel believed that this could have been done using database services, something that was backed up by the CIA's venture capital firm InQ Telephone. When Sean Parker, the founder of Napster, had taken the title of president of Facebook, he sought various investors and contacted Reid Hoffman, CEO of LinkedIn. Hoffman declined, but forwarded Parker to Peter Thiel, who took up the offer. In addition to Facebook, Thiel has invested in companies like Airbnb, Slide.com, LinkedIn, Friendster, RapLeap, Genie.com, Yammer, Yelp Incorporated, Spotify, PowerSet, Practice Fusion, MetaMed, Dater, SpaceX, Ironport, BigThink, Stripe. In 2017, Thiel was also one of the first investors in Clearview AI, a facial recognition technology startup that raised a lot of concern about its weaponization risks. On September 29, 2010, Peter Thiel created the Thiel Fellowship, which awards $100,000 to 20 people under the age of 23, to encourage them to drop out of college and create their own future. According to Thiel, university is what young people choose when they don't know what to do with their lives, and many dreams and good ideas are destroyed in connection with the school, shaping many smart people to only think inside the box and not outside the box, which is what the world needs. Peter Thiel carries out most of his philanthropic activities through the Thiel Foundation, where he already in 2006 started donating money to the Singularity Institute for Artificial Intelligence, now known as the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, an organization that works to promote the development of friendly artificial intelligence. By 2013, the Thiel Foundation had donated over $1 million to the institute. In 2015, OpenAI announced that Thiel was one of their financial backers. Thiel has also supported DeepMind, a British startup that was acquired by Google in early 2014. 2006 was the year when Thiel began to put large sums of money into promoting anti-aging research, and has since made several statements that we should look at aging the same way we look at disease. Thiel believes it can be cured, humanity just has to figure out how to do it. As of February 2017, Thiel had donated $7 million to the Methuselah Foundation, a non-profit organization with the mission of, quote, making 90 the new 50 by 2030. The organization supports tissue engineering and regenerative medicine therapies. In a 2014 interview, Peter Thiel said that he is registered to be cryonically preserved, meaning he would be subject to low temperature preservation in the event of his legal death, in hopes of might becoming successfully revived by future medical technology. He is also registered with Alcor Life Extension Foundation. Besides all of these things, Thiel is also a supporter of journalists writing freely and reporting on truths without having to feel fear about being censored. Therefore, Thiel donates large sums of money to the Committee to Protect Journalists, and is also a supporter of the Human Rights Foundation. Comment your thoughts on Peter Thiel and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Born in January 1964, American entrepreneur Jeff Bezos is probably most known for being the creator of Amazon. But did you know that Bezos is also the founder of the aerospace company Blue Origin, biotechnology company Alton Labs, and owner of the Washington Post since 2013, and in 2020 was ranked the richest person in the world? And did you know that he's also an astronaut? Bezos graduated from Princeton University in 1986, with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. Before founding Amazon, Bezos worked on Wall Street in New York, and it was during a road trip from New York to Seattle that he came up with the idea for Amazon. Watch this video to find out all you need to know about Jeff Bezos. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Let's go. So, Jeff Bezos was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, on January 12, 1964, and his birth name was Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen, last name from his biological father. Bezos' parents were very young when they had their son, his mother being only 17 years old and his father 19. After some tough years for the teenage parents, they separated, and shortly thereafter, Bezos' mother met Miguel Bezos, whom she later married, and her son Jeffrey was given his stepfather's last name, which resulted in whom we today know as one of the world's most famous entrepreneurs of our time, Jeff Bezos. Bezos moved from Albuquerque to Houston and then later on to Miami, Florida, with his mother and his stepfather, where he first went to school at Miami Palado High School, meanwhile also working the early morning shifts at McDonald's as a teenager. Eventually, Bezos enrolled at the science training program at the University of Florida. In his graduation speech, he told the audience that he dreamed of the day when humanity would colonize space, in what he hoped would occur in a not-too-distant future. The local paper wrote about Bezos' speech, saying that his future intentions were to, quote, remove all the people on Earth and turn it into a huge national park. Jeff Bezos graduated in 1986 and started working at Wall Street, but also quickly received job offers at Intel, Bell Labs, and Anderson Consulting. Bezos' first job was at Thiel, a startup company handling telecommunication, where his mission was to build networks for international trade. After a while he was promoted to head of development, and further to director of customer service. Continued hard work paid off for the young Jeff Bezos, and eventually he became product manager at Bankers Trust, where he found himself from 1988 to 1990. After that, he joined D.E. Shaw, a newly founded hedge fund, where he stayed until 1994. It was in late 1993, when Bezos had come across an article saying that the internet was growing at a rate of 2,300% per year, that he decided to establish an online bookstore to join in on the wave that was promised to be the next big thing. He quit his job and rented a garage in Bellevue, Washington, and started Amazon on July 5, 1994, after coming up with a plan for the company during a road trip from New York City to Seattle. Bezos brought with him his then-wife Mackenzie Scott, who helped write checks and negotiate the company's first shipping contract, perhaps one of the most important contracts, as it laid the foundation for the business to grow exponentially for the years to come. From the beginning, Bezos named the company Cadabra, and also first thought of placing his business in a Native American reservation near San Francisco to avoid paying taxes, but instead, eventually it came down to Seattle being the place for Cadabra to take off from. Bezos soon changed the name to Amazon, after the Amazon River in South America, reading into things like search engine strategies and alphabetization, and by giving the company a name that started with A, Bezos made sure that Haas' website would always end up at the top of searches online. Why Amazon was also a good choice of name, except from that strategy, was because Amazon River is the name of the world's largest river, and Bezos' goal was for Amazon Online to become the world's largest online bookstore. Although Amazon from the beginning mainly focused on selling books, Bezos had already planned to expand into other products, and in 1998 he began to make sure that his online store was starting to fill up with music and video products. By the end of that same year, he had succeeded in filling Amazon with a variety of different popular consumer goods. But a couple of years later, at the end of 2002 to be precise, Amazon came to a major setback, with financial problems and stagnated income. The company actually almost went bankrupt, and Bezos had to lay off 14% of all his staff. In 2003, Amazon recovered, making a then record profit of $400 million. In 2013, Jeff Bezos secured a $600 million contract with the CIA on behalf of Amazon Web Services. In October that same year, Amazon was recognized as the top online shopping retailer in the world. In early 2021, Bezos announced that in the third quarter of 2021, he would step down from his role as CEO of Amazon, and instead become executive chairman of Amazon's board. Andy Jassy was the one who came to replace Bezos' CEO post over Amazon, and Jeff Bezos began to focus on his projects Blue Origin and the Washington Post. Jeff Bezos has always had a great interest in space travel and the development of human life in the solar system, which led him to start Blue Origin in the year 2000, a startup for future human space travel. Already in 1982, Bezos started visualizing building and developing hotels, amusement parks and colonies, for people who were in orbit around the Earth. The then 18-year-old Bezos stated at the time that he wanted to preserve the Earth from overuse. Blue Origin kept a low profile from the beginning, and it wasn't until 2006 that things started to happen, as the company bought a large area in West Texas to use as a launch and test facility. Bezos then also stated that he wanted to start focusing on reducing the cost of human space travel. Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, and Elon Musk are the world's top 3 billionaires who prioritize space travel among their business interests. Since 2016, Bezos has spoken openly about his hopes to colonize the solar system, and has sold $1 billion in Amazon stock each year to invest that money into Blue Origin. He believes that the biggest focus of Blue Origin is to make the human species multiplanetary, this to preserve the Earth's natural resources. Jeff Bezos announced that he had bought the Washington Post for $250 million in cash on August 5, 2013. The sale was completed on October 1, 2013, by Bezos establishing the limited liability company Nash Holdings, from where he now owns the newspaper. Both Bezos and the Washington Post have received a lot of criticism where it has been claimed that Bezos is in control of the newspaper's content. Bezos himself denies this, stating that the newspaper is completely independent. Through Bezos Expeditions, Jeff Bezos makes his personal investments, and he was one of the first shareholders in Google, when he back in 1998 invested $250,000 in the company. Bezos is currently also investing large sums of money in Unity Biotechnology, a research company that focuses on being able to extend life by slowing down or stop aging. At the beginning of 2018, it was also reported that Bezos had invested in a healthcare company called Haven, which is expected to be a partnership between Amazon, J.P. Morgan, and Berkshire Hathaway. One of the latest projects Jeff Bezos has founded is Alton Labs, a company he started together with Yuri Milner. Alton Labs is working on biotechnology focused on harnessing cellular reprogramming to advance longevity. The company has managed to recruit several prominent researchers, who have already made a name for themselves, by finding ways to rejuvenate cells and reprogram the human body. In 1999, Bezos received his first major award, when Time named him Person of the Year. In 2008, Bezos was selected by the U.S. News & World Report to one of America's best leaders. That same year, he was awarded an honorary Doctor of Science and Technology degree from Carnegie Mellon University. In 2012, Bezos was named Businessman of the Year by Fortune. In March 2018, at the Explorers Club's annual dinner, Bezos was awarded the Buzz Aldrin Space Exploration Award in recognition of his work with Blue Origin. Time magazine has named Bezos one of the 100 most influential people in the world on 5 separate occasions between 2008 and 2018. In 2018, Bezos was named the richest man in modern history by Forbes, after his net worth increased to $150 billion. In 2020, Bezos had a net worth exceeding $200 billion, according to Forbes. In 2022, Bezos was ranked second on the Forbes 400 list of wealthiest Americans, with a net worth of $151 billion. The founder of Google, American internet entrepreneur and computer scientist, Larry Page, is the creator behind the search engine that has changed the entire experience of internet usage, and finds himself on the top 10 list of the richest people in the world. Page is also the co-creator of PageRank, a search ranking algorithm used by Google. Before we continue to get ourselves acquainted with Larry Page and meet the man behind the mastermind, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. After the video, don't be shy to comment your opinions about Larry Page and Google. Let's go. Given a good start in life, Page has been described as a pioneer in computer science and artificial intelligence. Larry Page was born on March 26, 1973, in Lansing, Michigan, to a Jewish family. His father, Carl Victor Page Sr., had a PhD in computer science, and Larry remembered that his childhood home was filled with computers, science books, and tech magazines, something he as a small boy enjoyed. He would sit for hours, flicking through and reading all sorts of different books and magazines, diving into the world of computers and technology. His mother shared the same interest as her husband and son, and worked as an instructor in computer programming. In addition to technology, Larry Page was also interested in music, and his parents sent him to music summer camps when he was young. Page says he has thanked them several times for this, as he believes that if it would not have been for his great interest and love for music, Google would not have been born. Page means that it was through music he learned how to become aware of perfect timing, and how important it is that all parts and instruments interact with each other, for the whole machinery to run smoothly. An approach he brought with him when creating Google. Page continued his interest in computers and technology further into his teenage years and young adolescence, and in 1995 he received a bachelor's degree in computer engineering from the University of Michigan. In 1998, he earned a Master of Science degree in computer science from Stanford University. When looking for study topics in the doctoral program at Stanford University, Page considered delving into the link structure of the World Wide Web, researching telepresence, or self-driving cars. His supervisor, Terry Winograd, encouraged Page to pursue the idea of understanding and exploring the link structure of the World Wide Web. In 2008, Page said that was the best advice he has ever been given. Page began a research project on the link structure, named Page Backrub, and quite early in the startup, a colleague named Sergey Brin joined in. Together, the two co-wrote a research paper, titled The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine. The paper became one of the most downloaded scientific documents in the history of the Internet at the time. In order to sort out the data that Page and Brin collected in the project, and put it on a web page, they developed an algorithm called PageRank. This is when they realized that algorithms could be used to build a search engine that was much better than the already existing ones. The algorithm relied on a new technique that analyzed the relevance of the backlinks, connecting one web page to another. In August 1996, the first version of Backrub was made available to Internet users, and in 1998, with financial help from teachers, family, and friends, Page and Brin managed to get together a few servers, and rented a garage in Menlo Park, which was the beginning of Google. The name was actually a misspelling of Page's original plan name for the company, Google, which is a mathematical term for the number 1, followed by 100 zeros, the large amount of data that the search engine was built to explore. Shortly after this, Page and Brin received a check for $100,000, which was signed out to Google Incorporated. The only problem, though, was that Google Incorporated did not yet exist, and during the 2 weeks it took from the check being written to the paperwork being done, the money could not be deposited onto any account. When Google Incorporated later was created, the first domain name Google was set. By mid-1999, when Google received a $25 million round of venture capital funding, the search engine was processing 500,000 queries per day. Activity began to explode in 2000, when Google became the client search engine for one of the web's most popular sites, Yahoo. By 2004, when Yahoo dispensed with Google's services, users were searching on Google 200 million times a day. That growth only continued, and by the end of 2011, Google was handling about 3 billion searches per day. The company's name became so global that it entered the lexicon as a verb. To Google, became a common expression for searching the internet. Larry Page's management style in the company was tough, and he tried to fire all Google project managers back in 2001, with the explanation that he did not like when people without knowledge supervised people with knowledge. Page also wrote down some principles he wanted his team to use as reference. Number 1, don't delegate. Do everything you can yourself, to make things go faster. Number 2, don't get in the way if you don't add value. Let the people working talk to each other while you go and do something else. Number 3, don't be a bureaucrat. Number 4, ideas are more important than age. Just because someone is junior doesn't mean they don't deserve respect and cooperation. Number 5, the worst thing you can do is stop someone from doing something by saying, no. Period. If you say no, you need to help them find a better way to get things done. Moving on. When Silicon Valley's two most prominent investors agreed to invest a total of $50 million in Google, they demanded that Larry Page step down as CEO, to make way for someone who could build a world-class management team. This led to Larry Page receiving the proposal and handing over his seat to Eric Schmidt, who took over Google's CEO role in August 2001. Even so, Page was still the head of Google in the eyes of the employees, and was therefore always the one who had the final say in all approvals. In January 2011, Page stepped back in as CEO of Google, and his two main goals was to make the managers and the company more independent, and create more collaboration between sections within the company's different levels. In August 2015, Page once again stepped down as CEO of Google, and instead became CEO of the new holding company, Alphabet Incorporated, with Google becoming a subsidiary of the group. This was done to be able to gather all the brands under the same umbrella, thus helping the brands run more smoothly and independent, in order to gain their own strength. With this reorganization, it was also possible to make it easier to disclose transparency, as you don't have to share business secrets the same way. In December 2019, Larry Page resigned from his post at Alphabet, and in a joint blog post that he wrote together with Sergey Brin, stated that when there are better people to run the company available, they did not want to stand in the way of the company's future development and progression, and therefore had decided to step to let a new fresh breeze in the company, for its own good. Larry Page is also an investor in Tesla Motors, and in renewable energy technology, and is also a strategic supporter of Opener, a project developing flying vehicles for consumer travel. Page is also the co-founder of Singularity University, a transhumanist think tank, with Google as one of the institution's corporate founders. What are your thoughts on Larry Page and Google? Comment below, hit the thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching and see you next time.